One question that I return to again and again in my work is, where's the line between abstraction and figuration? So much of what I paint isn't fully abstract, but it's not exactly representational either. Often there's some sort of central object, something recognizable, but it lives inside a sea of abstraction. In many of my paintings, that object is architectural. Usually it's been a column of the classical order, though in general it's pretty much something from the built environment. As of late, I've been working on what I consider to be a series which primarily depicts columns of the classical order in order to represent certain ideas derived from Greek myths, and I think often the presence of certain figures is enhanced by the solitary presence of a Doric order, which represents masculinity, or an Ionic or Corinthian, which represents femininity in different stages of maturity. And while I've been happy with that, I wonder, and I've asked myself the question, will it enhance or detract from this series to add in another element that isn't a column of the classical order, something else that's representational and recognizable? So I went to test it out, and as usual, I began sketching the composition with my left hand, the non-dominant one, which I used to bypass logic and connect more directly with the subconscious. Almost immediately, I found myself drawing a boat. It was hinging precariously over what looks like it could be a waterfall poised between two columns. And I've followed that image, and though it's not done, I can already tell that I want to be doing a bit of a retelling of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. It's a moment at the very edge of the underworld, sort of a threshold where one might look back or look down or contemplate the barrier between life and death. This boundary between life and death, looked at through the lens of mythology, is something that I frequently tackle in a lot of my work, so it feels like a natural progression. And as for whether or not the representational element outside of the columns was a successful choice or not, I guess we'll see as I continue to work. But I do like the idea that within the familiar constraints of these architectural elements of columns, a boundary exists between the figurative and the abstract in essence, even though there are these pathway elements that radiate outwards from the point at which the boat sits between the Ionic columns. It almost feels like this is a study in managing the relationship between the representational and the abstract, if there is, in fact, any way of doing that.